Welcome to the Fiscally Awesome podcast. I'm your host, Matt Gardner, co-founder and CEO of Highline. Today on the podcast, we have John Evans, hailing from Calgary, Canada. John is the founder and CEO of Everline Coatings and Services. John's got a really cool founder story, origin story for the business, and I'm excited to get into the conversation. John Evans, welcome to the Fiscally Awesome podcast, man. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks, man. I'm happy to be here. Always great to talk shop.
So John runs a very cool franchise called Everline. I'll let John introduce himself, and I'd love to hear the origin story behind how you got into this and how it got started, and just give a quick upshot to where you guys are today.
Sure. Yeah, so Everline Coatings and Services, we are a parking lot line striping and pavement maintenance business that is scaling through franchising. So you drive on to work every day. If every building out there has a parking lot, so there's roads, anywhere where there's pavement, we're able to service. And largely we do that by being, by trying to be really great partners with our clients, because that cliche of that, terrible contractor that doesn't answer their phone or doesn't provide updates or whatnot, we completely throw that out the window and we focus on our proven process, which we call the core quality system, which is something where on every single project that there's just every stage, just a proactive, really deep communication to our clients. And at the same time, we are utilizing innovative products and methods to deliver the service there. And then, of course, we're a values-based organization. The values cause us to go beyond in our partnerships. So we've gone through a substantial growth period over the last few years, but where it all started was my backyard.
Your backyard?
Yeah, the backyard.
Okay. Tell me more.
Sure. So it starts while I was in university at the University of Calgary. I was actually a franchisee myself during that time period. I was a part of an organization called College Pro Painters. And what College Pro did is it took 20-year-old me and basically they trained you how to run a business. So I learned how to market, sell, hire, estimate work, manage crews, things like that. And it's a miracle. I'm, professionally producing like professional painting jobs on people's houses. And you're like between 20 and 22 years old. So
you actually bought a franchise when you were 20?
Yeah, because I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur and wanted to run a business and didn't quite know how. And so College Pro is a 50-year-old brand. It started up here in Canada. It is a bit in the Northeast.
We have it all over the place in upstate New York.
Yeah, so I just wanted to be a part of that experience and just so glad I did it, that kind of thing.
Okay, so you went from painting to paving and sealing. How did you transition? Where'd the origin of the paving and sealing?
Sure. As soon as I graduated school, I outgrew the program, right? I was no longer a college student at that time, but I still knew I wanted to become, a business owner. So I actually went to a franchise show, like those old trade shows. I wasn't sure what I wanted to start. I wasn't actually on the hunt for a franchise at the time. I just wanted to go and get the juices going and get some creative ideas as to what I wanted to get into. And I walked up and down the aisle and ran into a company that was not awarding a franchise, but is very specific. They were selling a license for a durable traffic marking product. And, myself coming from the painting industry, I stopped by their booth and I saw a line painting machine in their booth. And myself coming from that painting industry, it was familiar, right? It was a paint sprayer on wheels. So I'd use the paint sprayer to paint houses, and this was just on wheels. And I was introduced to the line painting and pavement maintenance industry at that point. And I learned that there was a lot of similarities that what I was dealing with in the residential painting industry, that there was not a single branded leader in the space in Canada or even in the United States at this time. It just had never really been touched. And this is back in late October of 2011. And then more or less, I put a lot of pieces together and I said, okay, if I had a differentiated product, which was the license to this durable traffic marking product, and if I applied a lot of the skills and know-how that I had learned as a residential painting contractor that differentiated himself through just presenting myself as a better partner and as a strong communicator, if you mix those things together, something pretty cool there could happen. And it was in January of 2012 that Everline Coatings and Services Limited was born. And then more or less started reaching out to malls, to schools, to churches, and said, hey, I'm a new guy in town. Can I come and paint your parking lot? That kind of thing.
It's very cool. So when you started, you must have been doing sealing and painting yourself.
Actually, anytime a crew member called in sick or something
Yeah.
like that, the business owner's got to go in and save the day. But I always kept a mindset of some fires have to burn in order for you to
Yeah.
get to where you
Yeah.
want to be. When I started this, I was not planning on having a line striping and pavement maintenance job. It was now, if I didn't staff myself appropriately, I could go and save the day, but I decided that sometimes you just got to take the hit and adjust your process to work on the business more than in the business. Well, I can paint a mean line. If I can get you trained up and we can go and do it
Yeah.
there today. No
We can do
problem.
that.
I was never the main driver, the main crew member.
Yeah. Did you start it thinking it would be a franchise initially, or did you start it just thinking it would be business?
No, it was just a business for myself to operate. It was just to go and build a business for myself.
Yeah.
I knew nothing about becoming a franchisor. I was still learning scale myself because I was 23 when I started Everline. And so I had a lot of development as an entrepreneur myself to manage that.
So how long was it a standalone business before you realized you had some real potential to scale it
It
through a
was
franchise?
after about year 5. So it was, yeah. So I've been operating as a business for 5 years or so. And every year my business was scaling rapidly, doubling in revenue, and wasn't sure what to do with this ball of energy that I had created. And back then, we were only a line painting company at this time. That was the only service that we had offered. So I went to a mentor of mine who was actually the CEO of College Pro at the time. And I said, hey, I have this business. I'm not sure what to do with this. And he said, listen, like there's a bunch of different ways you can grow from here. You clearly have repeating clients, you have a growing business, you have crew members now, but you need to really learn scale. And there's a bunch of different ways you can do that. And you can go and start expanding into different services, into the crack sealing and seal coating work that we do. Or you can go open up a new corporate location somewhere in another city and hire a general manager to run it. And they just run by your playbook. And he said, hey, or the other option, maybe you could franchise it. And I was like, oh, whoa, I have no idea how to even remotely
How do you do that?
How do you do that? Should a company be, because not every business should be franchised. And I said, I'm not sure where to start with that. And he reached out and said, there's actually a contest being put on now by the International Franchise Association, which is the big governing body that advocates for the franchising community. And they were putting on a contest to attract millennials to the industry, because this is back when all the boomers were terrified of us.
Aren't they still terrified of it?
I think they are for sure. But before, there was a whole bunch of hysteria, right? Especially because we're on Instagram all the time. We want to do our own thing, taking selfies nonstop. And now we're in our 30s and have kids and stuff. But this is back when we were new to our professional working lives. And so they were looking for the best new franchise concept generated by a millennial. And I put together a little executive summary, just pitching why I think Everline might be a good franchise. And I didn't really know a whole lot. And, shot a little video, which is fun to watch now. And it was a global contest that went all over the world.
Wow.
And we ended up winning the grand prize. And so then what that did is it introduced me to franchising in general. They put me in a room with some of the top franchise, like franchisors in the service space. And I got to ask really direct, really quick questions, just being like, I have the standalone business. What should I do with this? And they were able to say, well, you're not ready to award anything. You need to prove that the magic is not you, that this is a business that John Evans can run in Calgary, Alberta, Canada at this moment in time with your experience. It's somebody with a different set of experience than you that can have the same success or greater success than you. And so it was after that I opened up a corporate location in Edmonton, Alberta, which is 3 hours north of us, and wrote out a manual over that winter. And this is before ChatGPT. So that was a thing.
When you really had to do it with just pure grit and brain power.
Yeah, exactly. And then more or less, just started testing it out in Edmonton. And the GM there, he started to hit milestones immediately or faster than what I was hitting them when I first started. He actually came to me and said, hey, I think I want to own this. here going forward. And so that was my first franchisee, and that's what started it from there.
So your original corporate locations, did you eventually sell those to a GM?
So I sold the Edmonton location to a GM,
Yep.
and I'm still a partner in the original location. I'm not a majority owner anymore. He's been running it, but it acts as our main HQ corporate headquarters where we test. It's a test kitchen, things like that.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a lot of stuff in the middle we're going to talk about too,
Sure.
but like, let's go to today. So how many franchisees do you have today?
We are at 119 franchisees.
We're 19. That's awesome. And I was browsing aimlessly on LinkedIn last night and I saw your face and you had this big award.
Yes.
Like an Emmy. It was a very prestigious honor you guys received. So talk about that.
Yeah,
you can
absolutely.
shamelessly plug Everline. It's
Yeah,
totally fine.
We're very proud of it was the Emmy is the Oscars of the franchising industry in Canada. So it was actually the Award of Excellence, grand prize. So what it is, the top award you can receive in Canada for franchising. It is judged on franchisee relationship and satisfaction with their franchisor. And we received the highest score in the country for the most satisfied franchisees. That was a great honor.
Congratulations, man. That's awesome.
Yeah. And what's really cool is so there's two different prizes, one where you are in your category and the other ones are the grand prize, which is an overall thing. So we won our category, our gold, for the last 4 years. And we actually won grand prize 3 out of the last 4 years. So I think that's officially a dynasty, as they say in sport.
It's a dynasty.
Yes.
That's amazing. So you have Canadian locations and you also have expanded into the United States too. So what's your mix of locations between the two countries?
Yeah, we're at about 23 locations in Canada and the rest are in the United States. So about 95, 96 in the United States and continuing to grow. The United States has been our biggest growth opportunity. America's going to America. It's just bigger.
Awesome. Congrats, man. I see you guys all over the place on LinkedIn and social media. And it sounds like you're constantly being recognized for the work you guys are doing. So keep it up, man.
Yeah, thanks.
Very cool.
Myself, having been a franchisee before in the past, like I've paid royalties, right? I paid those franchise fees. I've done it all. And I think that experience that I had as a franchisee, and my parents were franchisees. So I also grew up around that there as well. I think an emphasis on our franchise owners being a franchisee centric type focus to make sure that you hear stories of franchisors that just go and act as a tyrant over their franchisees. I like to think that we are strong partners throughout this whole thing.
They're your customers, right? In a lot of ways, they're your direct customers.
They're customers and their partners. And, that's always a fine line to walk. And we navigated pretty well so far.
Yeah. Okay. So, John, our whole thing on the podcast is we're trying to help founders and operators become a little more fiscally awesome. And what that means to us is we're just trying to help them get a little more intelligent in making capital allocation decisions, which can be financial, they can be human capital related. But basically, if you own a business, every decision you make is some type of capital allocation decision on a spectrum of 0 to 100. Yeah. So let's talk about the early days of Everline.
Sure.
And what that was like. Like when you are first starting the business, did you bootstrap it? What was it like getting it off the ground? How did you finance it?
Oh yeah. Bootstraps from day one. I think I was able to use some of the resources that I had from my college pro days, but largely I was 23. So this was a pretty significant endeavor to go down. I think my startup costs on everything was like $25,000 between getting a trailer, my first set of equipment. I already had a truck. It was a 1998 Ford F-150 with no bells and whistles whatsoever for like $2,500 or something like that. And a lot of it was just through pure grit and hitting the phones. I didn't have enough money for a website or for AdWords or SEO or any real marketing other than myself going out, knocking on doors and trying to network, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So Highline was bootstrapped too. So we started in 2016 and I don't know what your experience was like, but I didn't make $1 for 18 months.
Oh yeah.
Basically like nothing. We borrowed more money than we made and we had in revenue in the first year. And that's just what it takes.
That's right. Oh yeah. I've put myself in all areas of the spectrum of bootstrap to, overextending on borrowing money. I've done it all. So
yeah.
Did
you have any, because these are stuff I don't think most founders are like super open to talking about. It's like, the stuff that I screwed up, the stuff that
Oh
was
yeah.
scary, the stuff that wasn't perfect. On the financial side, like how did you manage cash flow? And because you didn't have all the experience, you said that you're developing entrepreneur. What was your mechanism for managing cash flow back?
Back then, I didn't really learn the importance of even just having regular financial statements coming into the business. I remember there was, I guess, years where I would, when I needed to get taxes done, I'd hire an accountant, and then I got my annual financial statement. And I was like, oh, well, I made that much. That's not as much as I thought I did, or this or that. And it was due to just purely a lack of understanding and discipline of how important that stuff is. Because otherwise, managing cash in the very beginning was off of instinct and just really looking at my AR, my AP, and my bank account balance. And I didn't have any training or know-how as to how to do that properly. And I would say that eventually I learned it as a requirement to scale, but it took a while. And I probably would have a bit more money in my bank account if I learned it earlier.
Yeah. So did you have any oh shit moments? Like in there, did you ever get so tight or so overextended that you just needed to get like super nimble and figure something out?
Oh yeah. I'll never forget. My business was like, I think around $1 million in revenue at a time. And I overextended myself substantially. So what had happened is I sold a street sweeper and I had a whole bunch of cash coming into the business with that. And I basically added on just an insane amount of fixed expenses. I went from just myself being the manager to opening in Edmonton, hiring an operations manager, hiring a sales manager, hiring a consultant to help me manage all this, and an administrator, as well as expanding my operations team. And I did that without any financial forecasting or planning, like an idiot. And then essentially, once I got midsummer, I got into a major cash pinch because I had done all this stuff with no planning whatsoever. I remember there was a point where I could not afford gas. My credit card was declining, and I had to call my mother and say, and my payroll was showing up. I had a $25,000 payroll like the next day. And I had to call my mother and I'd be like, I need $25,000 today. Otherwise, I'm out of business, frankly.
Yeah. So I appreciate the honesty and transparency. Like everybody that's run a business has had a moment like that.
Oh,
I've had moments 100%.
Yeah.
It's hard when you've never done it before to know, because when you're growing, because it sounds like you were growing a lot too. So when you're growing, you have to make investments to keep up with the growth. Otherwise, the growth kind of breaks down. So like that exercise of knowing where to make decisions, where to make investments, where not to, where you have to hang on longer, letting fires burn, as you said. How long do you think it took you to figure that part out?
It probably got bashed into my head, probably 5 or 6 years into my business. It was at that point when I had to call my mother. I'm a $1 million plus business and having to call her to bail me out, essentially. And thankfully she did. But so everyone call your mom and, you might need them. And
you never know. You got to be good to your mom.
Yeah, no, exactly.
I remember for us, COVID was a weird time. I don't know if it was for you guys either. Maybe because you were outside, it wasn't that big a deal. But
we were essential. So we were on the good side of COVID, but it took a while to get there.
Yeah, it took us a while to get there too. But at the beginning, none of our clients knew what the heck was happening. And they started getting gun shy and they started trimming costs and everybody started to bend. So that was a time when we were growing really fast and we had forward invested in a team. And it was always important to us to try to hang on to the team as long as we could. But that was a weird time. And we used that, put more money into the business at times. So like we've been through all the peaks and valleys of trying to grow and scale and how to finance it. But how John and I know each other also is like we both share the same private equity partners. So we're both backed by private equity. Shout out Red Iron Group in Menlo Park, California. Ben and Jason, thank you for supporting me and John. But you want to talk about, what was the driver for you in terms of looking for a capital partner?
So really what had happened is we were able to navigate through bootstrapping, sheer grit. And when we launched in the United States, I actually went and I raised some capital in order to expand to the United States. I had an opportunity to get connected with a premier franchise sales organization called Franchise Fastlane that was just known in the industry from growing brands. And they only take the best, and they selected us. So I went and found some initial investors, and really everyone expected Everline. We had a solid business in Canada, but the US market is loaded with the Canadian carcasses of that Canadian business that go down and just, see how competitive it is compared to in Canada, and they don't make it. There was not a ton of, oh, this is going to be huge, super growth moment there for us. It was like, we're probably going to grow at a rate of 1 to 3 locations a month, which is huge for any business out there.
Yep.
But still, it was just a matter of, we planned for that. And then when we launched in the United States, we grew substantially faster. Our first confirmation day of new franchisees, 9 locations signed up. Then the next month, 11. And the next month after that, 8. And the next month after that was there. So I get franchise fees from this. I have to pay commissions for those franchise fees. So it's not all there. Where I'm going to start making my money is on my royalties starting to come in. Now I am extremely top heavy with new franchise locations. It went from 17 locations to 71 in the first 9 months.
Wow.
Up there. And then over 3 years, the 17 locations to 119 there. And so it was just way faster growth. And so a couple of things were happening all at once strategically. There were, of course, I overshot that initial capital that I raised. And then I was in the rock and the hard place because I'm Canadian. And so the Canadian, because I would normally just use debt wherever possible just to hang on to as much equity as possible, of course. And essentially interest rates rising like crazy. The lending environment started to go down. You have in the US, because I'm Canadian, no credit. So I can't get access to US based funding solutions. And then at the same time in Canada, they are uncomfortable with just US operations in general and just the Canadian banking system.
They won't lend to the Canadian entity to finance US growth.
They don't. There are some programs that do, but we were in this spot where I had a whole bunch of brand new US based franchisees that were not proven yet. They were in their first year or two. And so there was a rock and hard place. And then on top of that caused me to reflect strategically. Okay, I could have survived. We could have been fine as is. Here's the other thing is that we were now the largest of our kind in North America. We were by far. And, now copycats are starting to show up on the market. And so for me, it's important to stay ahead, to continue driving forward. That's the type of entrepreneur I am, to not just rest on what we have. And in theory, we could have done that, could have been all right. But I just said, okay, here's an opportunity. Yes, there's a need for capital, but the need for capital is not really for survival. It's for making gains and to pivot and capture opportunities that are before us now because of our size. And if we don't, then we're vulnerable to others that are starting to enter the industry that do have backing to go and do that. So that's when I started thinking, you know what, I think it is time to bring on a private equity partner to partner with me to go out and build something much bigger than what it is. Everline was now bigger than me at this point.
Yep. That lands, same with me. The reason that we decided to partner with the Red Iron Group was strategic. It was, we felt like we had built a business that could be scaled and it could get really big. And we have a great team, but we're developing and there's a lot of competition. And when I met them, we shared almost identical thoughts on what strategy would win out in the space. I wanted help. I wanted smart people around the table to help move the business forward.
Deeper bench.
Yeah. And you need someone behind you to go make some big bets sometimes. You got to be able to do that if you want to go build a great company. So it's been about 18 months for us. It's been how long for you guys?
And about 5 months, give or take. Yeah.
5 months? Yeah. Do you feel like John taking on capital partner and like now CEO John, do you feel like you've grown, evolved? Has it been long enough that you feel like you can tell the difference?
Yes and no. I feel with the partnership, I feel liberated to do what I know needs to be done.
So
Without, or I think that's where I need to be in the organization. As soon as Everline doesn't need a aggressive, expansionist, opportunistic, type person at the helm, then I can't be here anymore. That's just who I am naturally there. And
yep.
so I think it's gonna continue on for the growth phase, where I would say I before I partnered with Red Iron, that initial group that I brought on really trained me through board meetings. He led by,
Okay. Yeah, you had some of the governance,
I
the
did have
governance
all that in
right.
place before, and certainly they whipped us into shape big time.
Yeah.
So I think that was a big one. So I have that aspect. So I look at it, they're amazing to work with. You want to find a partner that will work with you. That with, like Jason says, if you can take that phone call on a Friday afternoon with pleasure, always happy to do that. So
Yeah.
that's been a big one.
Yeah. I love that they like to work with founders because
Yeah.
we're a kooky bunch, man. We got a lot of energy. We're tough to manage, tough to
It
control, but
must be exhausting for them for sure.
uh-huh.
Yeah. Oh,
But
I
I
have a
enjoy
crazy idea. Oh no.
yeah. I like the transition to professional CEO though too. It's been 18 months, so I can feel that shift
Yeah.
for me personally in terms of my own professional development. So it's been cool. So let's go back to finance, like finance and accounting and numbers and cash flow. You've got 120-ish, 119 franchises. What do you see be like the most common like early mistakes that they make when it comes to managing their financials, managing cash flow?
I think the largest one is really managing almost entirely off of their bank account. Like that,
Yep.
the epitome of reactionary. And in the modern business world, to stay ahead, you need to, no matter if you're bootstrapping or if you have quite a bit of resources at your disposal, you need a plan. So the way I look at it, and I always tell our franchisees, is that being in business as an entrepreneur, it's like being on a ship in a storm, right? You are just out in the middle of the ocean, just getting battered by some form of resistance, whether it be external political affairs causing uncertainty, whether it's
Yep.
a competitor coming in with something in there. There's going to be something, and you have your goal, you know what island you're driving to, but you need to navigate it. And so I find, on a ship like that, you need a compass, you need a map, you need the sextant, I think it's called, where you gotta look for the stars, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And anyways, you need all those things. So the way that I say is that if you're really only operating off of your bank account, like you are just peering off and hoping you're heading in the right direction, you don't have early indicators or heads up as to if you're going to get yourself into trouble. So when you have things like, I think a budget to start off is the
Mhm.
most basic plan you could possibly
Yep.
get. Here's my model. I've looked at it on an annual basis. This is the revenue goal. This is what's going to cost me to produce it. And this is what I hope to make at the end of the year. And as long as you're having, if you don't have that map, then you can't see how well you're doing compared to that map there, right?
Yep.
Because as you go along, you could be on track and hitting the goals, or you could be way off course, but at least if you're just looking at the bank account and you don't know, and then you get to the end of the year and you're way off, could be in a break even or a loss situation, and you really could not afford that. So it's things
Yeah.
like that are all out there.
Yeah, I agree. I think oftentimes new business owners are just going through the motions, living day
Yep.
by day. They're looking at their bank account. Usually there's this pattern that I've seen enough of this now that the pattern is usually the first year depends on the cost of capital to start your business. You probably don't make any money, so you don't pay any taxes.
Yeah.
The second year or the third year, you generally start to make money and a profit. And folks don't plan cash flow, and there's a tax burden that's going to come with owning a business. And oftentimes I see companies get in trouble and get cash strapped because they're scrambling to try to come up with tax dollars. And
Yeah.
like that first year that they make money and they have to go pay the government, that's been one thing that I've seen happen over and over again. It's so avoidable. It's like, just take 30-40% of it and just put it over there
Yep.
and hold it so you don't get into trouble. There's
Yep.
nothing worse than tax debt. I've seen so many young companies go into tax debt
Yeah.
unnecessarily.
Oh, yeah. And again, it's planning, it's accounting for that there, right? It should be a
Yep.
line item in the budget, should be part of the cash flow forecast, things like that. To make that part of the plan so that you don't overextend yourself, go over
Yep.
your skis, that kind of thing.
Yep. Go into it knowing that you're probably not going to make a lot of money for a couple of years, but you're going to make a ton of money or have unlimited earnings potential if you run a good business in a few years.
It's the rite of passage. And I think that's probably the biggest misconception with those who do go in business is understanding year one, it's ramen and noodles,
If there's like ration ramen and noodles.
Yeah. Year two is you make a little bit of money, maybe. Right. And then it's just like year three, it depends on your growth trajectory. You could start making decent income, or you can reinvest that income into hiring a new staff member to expand your business or whatever it is, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Get good at getting punched in the face and just being okay with it.
Yeah.
On.
Yeah. No, I had a franchisee once say to me, John, it just feels like ever since I started my business, it just feels like I'm just getting kicked in the nuts every day, all day. And I was like, yeah, welcome to the party, man.
Yeah. It's like when you can run the gauntlet and you no longer fall over when you get just crushed from the side. It's like when you've become weathered enough to run the business like level-headed.
Exactly. To be an entrepreneur, to be a business owner is to be an eternal problem solver. And it doesn't matter at what scale you get. It doesn't matter. There's always going to be the worst problems that bubble to the top. So it is an Elon Musk quote where he said, being a CEO is like eating glass and staring into the abyss, because all the problems that come to you are the worst problems that your team could not handle. And so just always complex, challenging problems. And so I guess everyone listening, even if you scale to the point of 100 and 119 franchise owners, I got a couple fires in my mailbox in the middle of this podcast. So that's just how it is.
Regardless of scale, you get paid. Your job is to just chew glass all day long.
That's right.
So can we talk about franchises in particular? Because it's like a very unique industry. What is especially unique about the franchise space?
So franchising is like at its core, the licensing of a trademark or a brand and its operating assets or model to somebody who wants to start their own business. So say you were to go and start up, Matt's up a line painting business there, right? You have to go through, there are decades of experience that collectively we have as a group that you would not have access to if you were to go off. You have to go learn things the hard way there, right? Going and dealing with things without that sort of network. And so I think that with franchising, what it does is that, yes, you pay an initial fee to become a franchisee and you do pay royalties, but the value for dollar for that is especially exceptionally great because you don't have to learn all the hard lessons in order to get there. For example, a territory cost for Everline is, $59,500. But say you were to get signed on, you would have access to our national accounts. You have access to our cheaper, materials because of our buying power as a brand. You get all of the training included in that. You get all this. So you get well over 7 figures worth of, experience and learning and process just like that. So I think so depending on how you want to operate the business, that's largely what it is, that you're more or less you're paying to get past the years of pain and learning and challenges that many others would. And you get to participate in future benefits as a franchise owner there. And it's the same thing with any other industry. Because if you were to go start a a sub shop, right? It's like you have the choice. It's like I could go start up Matt's Subs and no one knows if it's good or not, or you go, Subway, right? And it's just like you can decide to go either way, whatever makes the most sense in that area. Yeah.
So do you find that you're competing with prospects who are willing to open, just looking for a franchise to open? They're like, it could be a Subway, it could be Everline, it could be something different. What's your pitch to convince them that Everline's a better bet for them?
For sure. So
It's big.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah, sell me this pen. No, so I think that largely how we differentiate ourselves is, I guess, a couple ways, because not every franchise is right for everybody. It depends on what you're looking for in starting a business. So if you're looking so typically if Everline franchise owner that would have an interest in working B2B with B2B clients, for instance. So there's B2C, which is, working with the public and
Yeah.
residential services and things like that. Or they go B2B, where they would rather go through that process of working with those types of clients, which is far less transactional. It's more long-term relationship focused. So start there. Like, what type of clients are you more comfortable working with? And then it goes into, okay, now there's a wide variety of B2B or B2C businesses. Now it's what is of interest to you. And so for us, for our pitches, is the line striping and pavement maintenance industry, recession resistant, proven to get through all the ups and downs of the economy. It is a required service. You can't just let your parking lot go. And it's something that it's, especially when the economy has a downturn, it's actually far cheaper to maintain and repair than to replace a whole parking lot. So you can actually continue on there. Okay, so you've now selected where you want to go. Now there's going to be a handful of other franchisors in that space. Then it's saying, okay, who will give you the best support, the best value for your royalty dollar? What's going to give you the greatest chance of success? And I don't want to toot our horn. We are a 3-time national champion here now, on comparison with brands like McDonald's and things like that. But how we do that is very demonstratively go, and we have strong relationships with our franchisees. That's all based on value and giving them what we call the Everline advantage. That if you come and sign on with Everline, that you're actually going to get a significant benefit by all of the negotiations we made with all of the vendors, the trading ability. And on top of that, it's not just what we've done already, but it's the constant research and development and exclusive products that we give to the franchisees that they're able to get access to. It's more of a vibe. It's more of connecting to the vision and being a part of that. More or less, the pitch is, we're not just a line painting and pavement maintenance contractor that decided to franchise. We're actually a strong franchisor. So all the principles there is like, we know how to do the service itself. That's great. But it's more about how do we work together as partners and growing our businesses together, because in order for us to be a success, our franchise owners need to be a success, and vice versa. So it's something that we've excelled at.
That was good. I give it a 9.5 out of 10. I'd buy a franchise.
Hey, there you go. I'll take it.
So on the franchisee side, so if I bought a franchise tomorrow, what do you think are the best parts of your playbook that help get your franchisees up and running? What are you guys really good at?
I would say the ongoing support that we have for our franchisees, and it's actually is all strongly rooted in communication. That's the first part, that we have a fully digital, we have a major tech stack that makes it easy for franchisees to be able to go and scale their business, because we dealt with an issue last year where we just had too much work. And so it's like, how do we chew through that, become more efficient with it? And that's where our tech stack actually really thrives. And on top of that, you have a community of franchisees and, of course, our home office staff that we facilitate to be open to questions, best practices, hosting conferences for us to come get together to go do advanced, continuing education, so we continue honing our craft. But then also, too, the way that we directly support our franchisees is through the EOS system. Are you familiar with EOS?
Yeah, Gino, I have Gino's book back here.
Oh, okay.
Somewhere.
There you go.
I don't know where it is right now.
Well, I think I see it. I see traction.
Yeah.
There it is. Yeah.
Yep.
We are actually one of the first and still the very few franchisors that have implemented EOS to all of our franchisees. So it's actually the working on your business aspect of it is what we do very well. So it's something that is certainly one of our secret sauces.
Yeah. Do you run Everline on the EOS system?
Yes, we do. Yeah, it's the only way we could have possibly survived that growth spurt that we had, for sure.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we would have been the Titan sub, just total implosion, for sure.
Yeah. I don't know if I believe that. No, we used to run on EOS. We bastardized it a little bit, and we got into doing OKRs versus rocks, the way that Gino Wickman teaches it. But it's basically a variation of traction.
Yeah. It's largely, what are your objectives? What's their priority?
Yep.
I get people accountable to them. Yeah, no, we've enjoyed using it, and so far so good.
Yeah.
There's another, I don't know if that book back here or not. Yeah, this is a good book too.
You ever read this, The Great CEO Within?
No, I haven't.
You should read it. Yeah. It's Matt Mokari. I think it's Mokari is his name.
Okay.
It's a good plug.
Right.
We should both get some type of royalties for the plug.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Last question on franchisees. So what are you doing, do you think, really well to help make your franchisees fiscally awesome?
It is a major part of our, I guess, philosophy. It's a major part of our support that they need. That it's actually one of our key objectives that's in our 3-year vision, that franchisees are data driven and make strong decisions based off of data instead of just instinct. And that's going to come through financial literacy. So we actually train and support our franchisees on, like, how do you set a budget? We go through their P&Ls there with them. We review other balance sheets once we have them, so we can help them plan and build out their business. And that ties into their VTO documents from the US, their system, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's a major element, is that we invest in education. We've brought in, I guess, guest speakers from, there's Profit Soup, I think is one of them. And the other one is, oh man, he's been awesome. I can't recall off the top of my head, but there's just like basically outside candidates to, or I guess experts, to come and train the importance of franchisees there, and actually just encouraging that really the key to scaling a great business is having strong understanding and control over your financials. And that's why we are bringing on Highline to help out, that sort of thing.
Helping make franchisees more fiscally awesome.
That's
I
right.
love it.
That's right. So that was through our whole process. We're like, you know what, Highline needs to come in and get us up to speed on that here. So
we're very grateful for it, John. Thank you.
Absolutely, man. It's incredibly important. And it's something that I think is one of our greatest strategic achievements that I know we can achieve in just making sure that the franchise owners understand their own financials, because wouldn't you know it, we just did it's kind of like a hybrid of all the different psychometric tests called Zoracle. It's designed for franchisees, and our strongest performing ones scored extremely high in finance. And so they understood how to manage their business from that angle, from a financials angle, not from just being really good at sales or really good at getting jobs done, but they're really good at management. And so we want to get more franchisees in who are strong in that, but also to train those who want the skill set.
Yeah, I love that. So I said that was the last question on franchise. I'm going to ask you one more. So how are you guys thinking about how AI and data can help in your business in particular?
Quite a few ways. With AI, I think its ability to take trends through the data that we're able to find is one of them. So we were able to even just navigate through analysis of just pure raw data, that's even just saying, AI coming at us and saying, hey, did you know that you win 70% of your jobs under X amount of revenue, but you only win 30, or you make 70% of these jobs here, but you only win 30% of these larger jobs? Look into that. And it allows you to take those trends and adjust how you approach the business in a lot of ways. I think that's a big one there for us, is taking the data and analyzing it, giving us suggestions for us to run our business better.
Yeah. The internal data that you have, I think, is going to be the biggest use case for AI. I think there's a lot of buzzy stuff out there about AI tools. I honestly think like your internal data and unleashing AI on that is going to help companies make a hell of a lot better decisions. I think that's actually like the biggest use case for it right now.
Well, exactly. And right now, our /unpaid CTO he's the same guy. We're really being mindful and focusing on building out a data lake, just capturing as much data as we possibly can in order to unleash AI to really find what's in there in the nook and crannies, because it's amazing what it can find.
Yep. We're saying we're on the same journey right now.
Yeah.
Okay. You want to do some rapid fire questions?
Sure.
Have some fun. Wrap it up.
Let's do it.
I'm going to go off script a little bit.
Okay.
So were you or were you not on Dragon's Den? And what was that like?
I was on Dragon's Den. It was a real fun experience, especially I went on when I was ready to get the word out across Canada as to what we were doing. And filmed. It was in May of 2019. It aired in November of 2019. And it was a lot of fun.
Cool.
Quite the experience.
Your pitch was really good. It's on the Everline website too, if you want to go check it out. John was very good on it.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you do to unwind after a long day when you go home?
I wouldn't call it unwinding. You got 2 small kids at home, so they got to get to bed and all that kind of stuff. But other than that, I'm a gamer. I'm a gamer. Yeah. So it's funny. I really love strategy games, but I find I actually use the same muscles for work as I do in strategy games. So I actually don't get a rest from the day. So I have to pick something a little more lighthearted or just fun and, sandbox games and things like that.
So, random fact, Highline has this interesting niche in working with gamers.
Okay.
So I don't know, like Tim the Tapman and Pokimane are two of our clients that we basically help take their gaming world and turn it into a business, which has been like,
That's
it's really
awesome.
interesting. That's like a separate conversation for another day. Interesting. Okay. So gamer. What's one book every founder should read?
Attraction.
Traction?
Yeah.
Okay. Last question. What is your CEO superpower? What makes you unique?
So my team has told me my superpower is insatiable desire for growth. I think it's mixed with eternal optimism.
That comes with the territory, man. If you're not an eternal optimist, it's tough to be a founder.
And that's it, is that you have your team that's meant to bring you back down to earth and keep you grounded, but you have to pull them up with that there too.
Yeah.
And where the art comes in is when you have to double down on that optimism, or when you have to pull back, when you listen to your team, what I'm telling you.
Yep. Okay. John, that's it, man. That was a great session. I love the story. I love what you're doing. Congrats on all the success you're having at Everline. And we appreciate you coming on the show, man. It's been a lot of fun.
Hey, man, it was a lot of fun. And hopefully some people got a couple nuggets here and there. And that was awesome.
Yeah, we'll be watching you from afar. We look forward to expanding our partnership together. And good luck, man, and the rest of 2025. I know we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks, brother.
All right, John. See you, man.
See ya.